Nice to meet you all. It's very nice to be here. Thank you for the invitation, and for me, it's very good to participate to the group. I'm from Brazil. I'm a composer, and I'm not an experienced user of OpenMusic, but I consider myself an intermediate user. I move on according to my interests. So I'm a professor too in Brazil, and a coordinator of a music education course at the faculty where I work, and that's it. Today I will try to explain something about my library. That's the all interval series library. So about the all interval series, it was the results of a bigger research that I'm doing about composers who work with 12-tone chords. So that's the library. I try to create it to work, to function well for OpenMusic and OM-sharp. And there's a lot of text, not a lot of text, but some text very interesting about 12-tone series, the all interval series. The main text is this one, the structure of all interval series by Robert Morris and Daniel Starr. And I take all calculations and I begin to create this for OpenMusic. In fact, this functions just prints the results of our calculations. There is no calculation that is coming from here. It's only a text file that prints the results, right? I have made some tutorials that need the OMCS library, the constraint solver, just to demonstrate how this was created. But it's not, the library don't depend with this library. So there is all these calculations of different kinds of all interval series. The only one I think it's my own invention is the mystery, because the mystery it's not my invention, but I think I have solved it about this mystery. I don't know, but it's on the article I said, the Daniel Starr, Robert Morris, they talk about the mystery all interval series that have a particular kind of construction. It's on this tutorial. That is, if you apply some cyclic permutations to the all interval series, for example, if I begin to 1 and do jumps by 2 and 2, or jumps 3 and 3 by 3 and 4 by 4, 5 by 5, all these will be the same all interval series in the end, but transposed. Some informations about all interval series, the basic theory about it from the article, and this I think it is the more important for if anyone wants to work with this library. Here we have the all prime all interval series, prime form all interval series, and if we evaluate this, we have 1,928 different series. It's a huge number of different series. And I'm thinking to work with this series in 2 ways, by a 12-tone series, linear. This is the last our interval series from this whole package of series. And this function is the chord. It's not linear. It calculates the modulo 12 of each interval and creates a kind of huge chord. It's like this that Elliott Carter works on Night Fantasies, create big chords. So it sounds very different. Right? I think these two approaches is very interesting to work with this library. And I made this patch. It's a very simple patch to generate some lowest notes from this arithmetic series. Random notes, 10 notes, and 10 random all interval series. And then we have created this chord sequence. It's important that this function, I have revised it for the last version of the library to accept not lists, but lists of chords of all interval series and lists of lowest notes. You can also use only one note if you want, that all chords will begin with the same note. So this will generate very fast 10 random interval series. I say that's very fast because here it's the trick is not to calculate but to print the results. So it's much more faster than other methods. So the normal form, it's like the normal form on Forte terminology, Alan Forte. It's the all interval series who begins with 0. It's the minimum transposition, right? So with this, if you check all results will begin with 0. Each one can be transposed to another pitch class, 12 pitch class, different pitch classes. This is the normal. And the prime, it's when you select the all interval series that have the minimal interval at the left. It's like the prime form of the pitch class theory, set theory, and stuff. So that's the difference between normal and prime. So if we check all the results from here, for example, normal forms, we have bigger numbers. There's the first interval, it's up to 11. If we take only the prime forms, we will go only to 5. We don't have bigger intervals. So that's why the number of prime all interval series is decreased by half. You have half solutions compared to the normal form, right? So that's the beginning of the calculation. So with one all interval series, we can do a lot of operations like retrograde, inversion, and retrograde inversion. The Q operation, I think it's the most tricky to understand. I take some time because it's not well explained on the text. I have to try to understand by myself, but it's not so complicated. It's like this. Our interval series has an interval 6 at the end, compared to the first number. For example, this begins with 0 and will finish with 6. if we rotate the all interval series, we get all these results. But only one have the 6 on the middle. That's what the Q operation do. And this is the only result that it's another all interval series. All the others are not all interval series. There are some repeated interval. So I have made this patch only to demonstrate that the rotations, all rotations, and the calculations of all intervals, modulo 12. So we can check that we have some repeated interval. But when the 6 goes to the middle, we have another all interval series. That's because he claims that Robert Morris and Dennis Stahl say on the text that it's rotationally normal. That's the Q operation. I think it's the trickiest one, right? So here we have the Albanberg lyric suite series. Then it's where it appears on the work, the normal form transposed to 0, and the prime form that is the, like say, the best inversion with the lowest interval at the left. That's what this function does. It's calculate all rotations, takes the only one that have the 6 on the middle, and returns a new all interval series. It's like a new operation to use with 12-tone theory. It's like inversion, retrograde, and we have this Q operation, one more operation to work, right? So it's very interesting. I recommend to read these texts and to, of course, to listen to the composition of Elliott Carter. But I will continue with my other operations. That's the M operation. That's means multiply the all interval series multiply by 5, and then calculated modulo 12. So if you take any all interval series, multiply each number by 5, and calculate the modulo 12, you have the M operation, right? So you have the inversion of the multiplication, the retrograde of the Q operation, and this particular operation were used by Elliott Carter is this operation 0 or 0 operation, that you just exchange the number 3 and 9 of the all interval series, and you create a new series from that. And the constellation that is also with that text, that calculation 16 related all interval series. So we have the primary, the inversion, the multiplication of the inversion, and the multiplication. So this pattern will be applied to each of these ones. That's the retrograde, the Q, retrograde, and Q. So we have 16 related all interval series. It's like a matrix, like the 12-tone matrix for all interval series, right? Then I have created a new function that calculates all of these ones, the 16 related all interval series in that order. The 4 from the original series, the retrograde, Q operation, retrograde, and Q. So we have 16 different chords. And I don't know, for me, I think this chord sounds very good. For example, it's very dense sonority, you know. Of course, we don't need to use this on composition like big blocks, but it sounds nice. And I have made a patch. This is based on the previous patch about calculate random series, and with a little internal patch to permutate all notes. So I have a more a different texture with this. It's just a small example. So with another thing I like to do when I'm trying to test some ideas is to sustain all notes like on the piano. But I find this sounds interesting to hear all resonations and things like that. I have made another example about the Elliott Carter Night Fantasies that I was analyzing the piece using the library. So I have take some examples for the score and take some of the all interval series I found on the library, and I'm comparing to the score. For example, I have found the six first notes of this chord appears on the very first beginning of the piece. This chord is the second chord. It's appear from the next bars. It's exactly the same notes except for the A sharp or B flat that does not appear. I don't know why yet. And the inversion of this chord appears on the next bars. Only half of this chord too, like in the beginning, the six first notes. So I'm trying to use this library for analysis, and I'm not thinking of yet for composing using this chords yet, but I think it's for me it's a very intriguing piece. This piece from Elliott Carter, and there is also an article by John Link who talks about it. It's a little different than the calculations I have made here, because he uses intervals, not it doesn't use pitch classes. It's by 11 intervals, so it's a little strange for me. And I have some to-do list that I want to increase the library with some more functions in the future. This one is to filter all calculations by selecting one type of hexachord. For example, if I select the 614, we will get 128 different all interval series that use this hexachord. This little patch is to calculate the complement and returns the 40 number, 40 notation. So that's two versions of this for the second hexachord, for the first. That's one thing I want to do in the future. And to test new combinations, to divide the all interval series in 3 parts of 4 notes, or tetrachords, or trichords, 4, 8, and so on. I'm beginning to test this, to filter using different trichords and chords. And maybe in the future to create a new class. I'm thinking a class, and maybe Karin can help me, because there's too much information about the all interval series that maybe we can visualize inside a class. So if you enter a non-interval series, you can see all the constellations, operations, to visualize the chords, to select what kind of output do you want, mid-cents or intervals or PC sets, such classes.